There are 10 Harbor Freight items so good that they're destroying expensive brands. Yeah, the budget store everyone mocked is now embarrassing the tool giants. From the Icon toolbox to the Predator generator, these aren't cheap knockoffs anymore. And you would be stupid if you buy the expensive brands, because the first tool on it didn't just compete, it destroyed the competition. Tool 1. Icon. Professional tool chest, the throne of the underdog, the Icon. Professional tool chest didn't just challenge Snap-on, it proved that Harbor Freight could play in the big leagues. For decades, Snap-on toolboxes were a symbol of success. They were heavy, bright red, and cost as much as a used car. Every mechanic dreamed of owning one because that box meant you'd made it. Then Harbor Freight released the Icon, and everything changed. At first, nobody took it seriously. A Snap-on rival from a discount store? No way. But when mechanics saw it in person, the laughter stopped. The Icon feels solid. Thick steel walls, smooth sliding drawers, and a paint that looks showroom ready. Side by side, most people can't tell which one cost $10,000 and which one cost a third of that. Independent tests backed it up. The drawers handled the same weight. The slides stayed smooth. The overall build was nearly identical. Snap-on might still have the name, but Icon delivered the performance. That's when professionals started realizing the truth. Harbor Freight isn't chasing the big brands anymore. It's catching them. And this was just the beginning. If this toolbox made Snap-on nervous, wait until you see the power tool that made DeWalt question its crown. Tool 2. Hercules cordless. Tools. David versus DeWalt. DeWalt has been the gold standard for cordless tools for decades. Every construction site, every contractor's van, that yellow and black has always meant professional. So when Harbor Freight released their Hercules line, everyone rolled their eyes. It's a cheap DeWalt copy, they said. No chance it holds up. But then people started using it. The first surprise? Power. The Hercules drill pushed almost the same torque numbers as DeWalt's mid-range models. Sometimes even more. Battery life? Nearly identical. In blind tests, most users couldn't even tell which drill they were holding. Reviewers put them side by side, drilling into thick lumber and metal plates. DeWalt cost over $200. Hercules? Around $100. The results? Nearly the same performance. Sometimes tighter control, even smoother handling. People expected Harbor Freight to fall short, but the Hercules line kept proving itself. The build felt solid, the batteries held up, and the warranty gave buyers real confidence. That's when the narrative flipped. Hercules wasn't just good for the price, it was good, period. And suddenly, contractors started asking an uncomfortable question. If a $100 drill can hang with DeWalt, what are we really paying for? Hercules didn't just copy the big brands, it cornered them. And it made everyone realize that professional-grade performance doesn't have to come with a professional-grade price tag. If DeWalt felt that hit, just wait until you see the next tool, the one that went head-to-head with Milwaukee, and won. Tool 3. Earthquake XT. Impact, wrench, the giant slayer. Milwaukee has long been the king of cordless impact wrenches. Power, speed, durability, their M18 lineup is the standard by which everyone else is judged. So when Harbor Freight introduced the Earthquake XT, nobody took it seriously. It was cheaper, smaller, and came from the same store that sold $5 hammers. Most people expected it to break before finishing a job. Then came the tests. Mechanics lined it up next to the Milwaukee, the Ingersoll Rand, and the DeWalt. Bolt after bolt, lug nut after lug nut. The Earthquake XT just kept going. It wasn't supposed to have that kind of torque, but it did. Over 1,000 foot-pounds in real-world use. It wasn't supposed to last that long, but it did. Day after day in professional garages. The moment it broke loose, a rusted truck lug that even the Milwaukee struggled with, people stopped laughing. This wasn't a gimmick. It was a wake-up call. For about half the price, the Earthquake XT was putting in the same work as the top-tier tools. Sure, the Milwaukee still had the brand name and a slightly sleeker finish, but in raw power and value, the Earthquake stood its ground, and in some cases stood taller. That's when pros started keeping one in their toolbox just to have it, and ended up reaching for it more than the expensive one. Harbor Freight didn't just make a strong impact wrench, they made a statement. The gap between budget and pro grade is closing fast. And if Milwaukee wasn't worried before, they should be now. Because the next Harbor Freight tool didn't just match the pros, it embarrassed them. Tool 4. Bauer Random Orbital Polisher. The detailer's secret weapon auto detailers can be snobs about their tools, and for good reason. When you're working on high-end paint jobs, precision is everything. For years, polishers from brands like Roop and Griot's Garage dominated the market, often selling for $300 or more. So, when Harbor Freight released the Bauer Random Orbital Polisher, priced under $70, most professionals barely noticed. Another toy, they said, something for beginners. But that opinion didn't last long. Car enthusiasts started testing it. YouTubers ran side-by-side comparisons. And what they found shocked everyone. The Bauer didn't chatter or vibrate like a cheap tool. It ran smooth, steady, balanced, consistent. The speed control was accurate, the build felt solid in hand, and the results were stunning. Polish after polish, the finish was mirror clear, with no holograms or swirl marks. The kind of result you expect from a machine 3 or 4 times the price. Even pros began admitting if you swapped the label, you'd never guess it came from Harbor Freight. That's when people realized the Bauer wasn't just good for what it costs. It was flat out good. It gave beginners pro-level results, and gave professionals a cheaper backup they actually trusted. The Bauer Random Orbital Polisher proved that Harbor Freight could deliver finesse, not just brute strength. And in an industry obsessed with brand prestige, that's the ultimate embarrassment for the competition. Because when a $50 tool performs like a $300 one, it makes you wonder what else we're overpaying for. And that question leads straight to the next tool, one that went head-to-head with the precision of German engineering and held its ground. Tool 5. Doyle Pliers. The hand tool. Uprising. When it comes to pliers, one name has always stood above the rest. Knipex. German-made, perfectly machined, and trusted by professionals worldwide. Their precision is legendary, their prices just as famous. So, when Harbor Freight introduced the Doyle line, claiming Knipex-level performance for a fraction of the cost, people rolled their eyes. Nice try, they said, but real quality isn't cheap. Then, the comparison started. Side by side, the Doyle pliers looked shockingly close. Tight tolerances, smooth action, and jaws that locked onto fasteners with bite and control. The grip felt sturdy, the finish was clean, and in real-world use, they just worked. In tests, Doyle pliers matched Knipex in grip strength, leverage, and cutting performance, even after repeated abuse. For a tool that costs less than half as much, that result turned a lot of heads. Mechanics, electricians, and homeowners started saying the same thing. These feel expensive, and that's the real power of Doyle. They erased the line between budget and professional. Knipex still makes incredible tools, no doubt, but Doyle proved something bigger. That great design and precision don't have to come from Europe, and they don't have to cost a small fortune. With Doyle, Harbor Freight showed they could build tools with finesse, not just force. And the industry started to notice, because if they could go toe-to-toe with German engineering, what would happen when they took on Japan's legendary reliability? Tool 6. Predator Generators. The Reliability Rebellion. For decades, Honda generators have been the gold standard. Quiet, efficient, unbreakable, the choice for job sites, campers, and emergency backup. If you needed power you could trust, you paid the premium, no questions asked. Then Harbor Freight released the Predator line. It looked similar to the Honda, same compact design, same clean output, but at less than half the price. People dismissed it instantly. "You get what you pay for," they said. Then came the real-world tests. Users began comparing the Predator 3500 to Honda's EU 3000. Side by side, both started easily, both ran quietly, and both powered sensitive electronics without a hitch. In fact, the Predator often ran longer on a tank of gas and delivered nearly identical performance on power load. Owners began reporting that their Predators started reliably year after year, even after long storage. Mechanics opened them up and found well-built engines, solid wiring, and smart layout. Nothing like the cheap knockoff people expected. Suddenly, the story flipped. The same generator that cost over $2,000 from Honda had a real rival that sold for under $1,000 and performed just as well. The Predator line proved that dependability doesn't have to come with a premium price tag. It became the go-to for weekend warriors, small businesses, and even pros who once swore by Honda. Harbor Freight didn't just make a budget generator. They made people realize how much of what they were paying before was just for the badge. And if Predator could steal the crown from Honda, the king of reliability, imagine what would happen when Harbor Freight aimed for precision itself. Tool 7. Quinn torque. Wrench. Precision for the people. Ask any mechanic what tool demands the most trust, and they'll say the torque wrench. When you're tightening bolts on an engine, a wheel, or a cylinder head, precision isn't optional, it's everything. For years, Matco ruled this space, charging hundreds of dollars for that kind of accuracy. Then Harbor Freight dropped the Quinn torque wrench, and the industry barely blinked. It was a fraction of the cost. Surely it couldn't compete. But when people tested it, the results were jaw-dropping. Independent reviewers put the Quinn head-to-head against the Snap-on. The readings, within 2% of each other. In some tests, the Quinn was even more consistent. At around $40, it was performing like a tool that cost $400. Mechanics couldn't believe it. They checked calibration after calibration, and the Quinn just kept hitting its marks. Smooth handle, easy adjustment, solid click, everything you'd expect from a high-end wrench, minus the inflated price. The more people used it, the clearer it became. This wasn't a budget gimmick. It was professional precision for everyday people. Harbor Freight had built a torque wrench that delivered trust. And that's the one thing money was supposed to buy. The Quinn proved that great results don't come from expensive names. They come from tools that do their job every single time. And if that kind of accuracy can come from a $40 wrench, imagine what happens when Harbor Freight turns that focus toward the foundation of every shop, the socket set. Tool 8, Pittsburgh Pro. Socket set. The immortal classic. Every mechanic has a favorite socket set. The one that's been through years of busted knuckles and late-night repairs. For decades, craftsmen owned that loyalty. Their sockets were tough, polished, and built to last. But then came the Pittsburgh Pro socket set from Harbor Freight, and slowly it became the most underrated workhorse in America. At first, nobody took it seriously. "It's Harbor Freight," people said. "Use it once, and it'll break." But that never happened. The Pittsburgh Pro sockets were forged from chrome vanadium steel, the same material used by top brands, and finished with a mirror polish that held up under real abuse. People started testing them, pushing them past their limits, and discovering something surprising. They didn't fail. In torquey tests, they matched Craftsman. In durability, they stood toe-to-toe with Snap-on. And if one ever did crack, Harbor Freight replaced it instantly. No paperwork, no questions, just a new socket in your hand. That kind of experience changes minds. Mechanics who once swore by their premium sets started keeping a Pittsburgh Pro kit on standby, and then found themselves using it more than their expensive ones. These sockets don't pretend to be fancy. They just work, again and again and again. The Pittsburgh Pro Set has quietly become a legend, not because it's flashy, but because it earns your trust the old-fashioned way, by showing up every time you need it. It's proof that reliability doesn't have to come in a shiny, overpriced box. Sometimes it comes from the shelf you used to walk past. And that same shelf holds another icon, one that mechanics have turned into a cult favorite. Tool 9. U.S. General Tool Cart, the cult classic. Every mechanic dreams of a tool cart that feels like a command center, organized, sturdy, and ready for anything. For years, that meant spending over $1,000 on a snap-on roll cart. It was the badge of a serious professional. Then Harbor Freight introduced the U.S. General Tool Cart, and the industry didn't know what to think. It looked too good for the price. Heavy-duty steel, powder-coated finish, deep drawers that rolled like silk. All that for under $300. It had to be too good to be true, but it wasn't. Word spread fast through online forums and shop floors. People who bought one came back for another. Mechanics started customizing them. New handles, side trays, lights, logos, turning them into something personal. Soon, entire communities formed around modding U.S. General carts, proudly showing them off next to gear that cost triple the price. Reviews compared it directly to the snap-on KRSC-46. The verdict? The U.S. General wasn't just close. It beat it in drawer depth, storage space, and price by a mile. The build quality? Rock solid. The look? Pure confidence. That's when it stopped being a budget option and became a movement. The U.S. General Tool Cart became the symbol of practicality over prestige. Proof that you don't need a logo to do professional work. In garages everywhere, red and blue U.S. General carts now sit proudly beside high-end gear, and no one's laughing anymore. Because when a $300 cart makes a $1,000 one look overpriced, it's clear who's really innovating. And if that wasn't enough, Harbor Freight had one more surprise. A tool that didn't just compete with the big brands, it proved they could lead. Tool 10, Hercules Miter Saw. The turning point, DeWalt and Bosch owned the woodworking world. Their miter saws were trusted, precise, and priced like they knew it. If you were serious about your craft, you bought one of those, or you weren't taken seriously. Then Harbor Freight launched the Hercules Miter Saw, and everything changed. It looked familiar. Clean lines, solid base, laser guide. But what caught everyone off guard was how it performed. Reviewers lined it up against DeWalt's famous DWS-780, a saw that cost nearly twice as much. They cut through hardwood, trim, framing lumber, and the Hercules kept pace, stroke for stroke. Its cuts were straight, its angles locked tight, and the sliding arm felt steady and controlled. No wobble, no hesitation, just clean, confident power. Even the dust collection system, a feature DeWalt's been criticized for, worked better than anyone expected. And the best part? Consistency. The Hercules stayed dialed in after hundreds of cuts. It wasn't just good for the price, it was simply good. Woodworkers who'd spent years loyal to DeWalt admitted it. This thing shouldn't perform like it does for that money, but it does. The Hercules miter saw proved something deeper than specs or savings. It showed that Harbor Freight doesn't just chase the big brands anymore. They've caught up, and in some cases they're leading the way. This was the moment the story flipped. Harbor Freight wasn't the underdog trying to prove itself. It was the competitor setting a new standard. Because once a company learns to build like this, there's no going back. And that brings us to the real twist, the part of this story that isn't about tools at all, but about us, because Harbor Freight didn't just make better tools. They changed the rules. They proved that innovation doesn't have to come wrapped in marketing hype or price tags designed to impress. They proved that the underdog can rise, and that sometimes the smartest choice isn't the one that costs the most. It's the one that works the best. So the next time someone laughs at Harbor Freight, let them. Because while they're busy paying for names, you'll be out there getting the job done. If you believe quality doesn't have to be expensive, you're already part of the revolution. Like, subscribe, and go build something legendary.